It's a privilege for me to be here today as part of a new tradition in an old school. Our College of Medicine started in 1834 as the Geneva Medical College, part of what's now Hobart and William Smith Colleges. The medical college was located in Geneva, New York, and became the first college to grant an MD degree to a woman, Elizabeth Blackwell, in 1849. In 1871, the college was donated to the recently founded Syracuse University, initially as the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Syracuse University, and then in 1950, SU sold the college to the State University of New York, SUNY, where it remains today. So we are the second oldest College of Medicine in New York State and the 14th oldest in the country. Not infrequently, our institution's name has changed, and we are now the College of Medicine of SUNY Upstate Medical University. A few decades ago, there were, across the country, informal but very rigid quotas in medical schools for women, people of color, Catholics, and Jews. We were among the first to break out of that, and when talking to our older alumni, I learned that many came here decades ago because they could not get through those quotas in other schools. We are very proud to be a medical school that has historically offered new opportunities to those who could not otherwise gain access to the medical profession because of their gender, skin color, or religion. We are delighted that you are now part of our distinguished history and tradition. In contrast to our long history, the white coat ceremony, often abbreviated as WCC, and welcome to the world of medical acronyms, is a new invention that initially perplexed me and my colleagues from my generation. Understanding the history of the ceremony has given me much needed insight as to why we are here today. This ceremony originated at the University of Chicago's Pritzker School of Medicine in 1989, 4 years after I left it in 1985 as a postdoctoral researcher in diabetes. The white coat ceremony started there after a University of Chicago professor complained to the dean of students, Dr. White's equivalent, Dr. Norman Wagner, that first-year students were showing up in shorts and baseball caps for sessions where the patients are pouring their hearts out. Wagner decided that the fix was to create a ceremonial program like this one, in which students were given physician coats. The school invited parents and told the students that for any session that we have patients present, you're expected to look professional, wear the white coat, and behave appropriately, she said. The idea was batted around for a few years before Dr. Linda Lewis, dean at Columbia University College of Physicians and Surgeons, joined with the Arnold Gold Foundation to sponsor the first full-fledged white coat ceremony, which was held at Columbia in 1993, with the entering class reciting a modern version of the Hippocratic Oath. Formerly, that pledge had only been taken at graduation. Gold, who was a professor at Columbia, said rearranging that oath's timing actually returns to the original concept of Hippocrates, who had students recite it at the outset of their apprenticeships. It was a condition of training, he said. Instead, we had them taking an oath about the kind of doctor they would become at graduation. It was 4 years too late. The white coat ceremony quickly became a staple of medical schools and soon thereafter of multiple types of healthcare schools, not only in the US, but across the world. So welcome to a new tradition in an old school. So today, from the get-go, so to speak, we would like to introduce you to the values and principles of medicine. First, it's always critical to remember that medicine is a team sport. The physician doesn't save lives alone, the team does. Often members of the team never lay eyes on the patient. They may be reading an x-ray many miles away and notice a small growth on an imaging study, or a lab technician may identify a pathogen infecting a patient that makes you change the antibiotic that you're giving the patient and can save the person's life. We are all in this great profession together, and we all need to treat each member of the healthcare team with respect and collegiality. The main purpose of the WCC is, however, to welcome you to the medical profession. So welcome. And to start the process of preparing you to work with patients. That's an immense privilege that makes, in my opinion, medicine the most noble and overall the best profession of all. People will literally put their lives in your hands. With great privilege comes great responsibility. There is in medicine a very unfortunate divide between illness and healthcare that becomes an us versus them kind of dynamic. Some say that it is actually protective of physicians, as it would be very difficult for us to think this could be me as you work with each single patient. I disagree. I would like to strongly urge you to see the patient as fellow human beings who have put their health in your hands. My own first memories are of illness. When I was 6, my sister Fabiola died soon after she turned 4 of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I used to be very skinny and a picky eater. Sadly, now I eat too much of everything. But she had a hearty appetite and was almost my size, and we were inseparable. I just barely remember her when she was well. In early 1964, she began losing weight and having these very unexplained bouts of abdominal pain. She was eventually diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and died on August 9th of that year. Looking back, I remember my family's desperate efforts to import chemotherapy, which did not work, as the effective regimen for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma only came much later. She died in much pain, literally bone and skin, with no hair, lost to chemotherapy. The effects of that disease on her and all of us were devastating. And it is from that experience that I have built the compassion to work with those who need me. Illness hits very hard, and we are in all of this together. One important concept that I would like you to always remember is that no matter how tired you are, how many patients you have seen that day, that week, that year, that person in front of you is number one. You will be that person's doctor and the one they are entrusting their health to. That encounter is critical to them and not a routine. Please never make patient contact a routine. Each person is different and each doctor-patient interaction is critical. We have 2 keynote speakers who will tell you more about being a doctor. One is from right here, Dr. Daryl Dykes, who was born in Syracuse and who graduated from our MD PhD program, became a very successful orthopedic surgeon, and then attended law school as well, and recently joined our faculty. So he's twice a doctor and a lawyer. The second speaker is a special guest who I invited to talk to you about the challenges one faces up growing with a serious illness. Dr. Sarah Patterson and I grew up on the same floor of the same apartment building in Brazil. Our mothers were very good friends and would actually have coffee together every day. Sarah obtained her PhD and is now a successful medical researcher at the New York Blood Bank in New York City. Her serious illness was cured, and she will talk to you about her experience from the patient side. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Norcross, and he'll say to you a few words about the Alumni Association.
You guys look great. Good afternoon. As the Dean told you, I'm Paul Norcross. I'm the Executive Director of the Upstate Medical Alumni Foundation. On behalf of the Foundation and our Board of Directors, I wish to welcome the class of 2023 and extend a warm welcome to your parents and family in attendance. Over the next 4 years, your education at Upstate Medical College will provide the foundation for your entire career in medicine, as it has for almost 9,000 living alumni. It is our pleasure to join with the Onondaga County Medical Association and their president, Dr. Mary Ann Miller, to sponsor this white coat ceremony and to welcome you into the medical profession. This is the start of a lifelong connection with the Medical Alumni Foundation. Throughout your time at Upstate, the Medical Alumni Foundation will be here to support you with white coats, books, scholarships, funding for travel, class events, cookies. All of this is made possible by our grateful and generous alumni. You will have an opportunity to meet many of these alumni during our reunion weekend, September 20th. They are returning to Syracuse to see old friends and to relive their Upstate memories. Over the next 4 years, you will be bonding and creating your own memories with fellow classmates. Students, we welcome you to the traditions of Upstate Medical College. Today, you have received your first white coat, and this coat symbolizes that you are a part of this wonderful profession of healing. Wear it proudly and with honor. It is now my pleasure to welcome Marsha Desjardin to the stage. Marsha is the president of the Gold Humanism Society and a member of the class of 2020.
Thank you all for having me here today. As mentioned, my name is Marsha Desjardin, and I am a fourth-year medical student and the president of the Gold Humanism Honor Society. I was asked to talk about the meaning of the white coat and reflect on the impact it has on us as medical students. I'm sure most of you want to get your white coats on already, so I really won't take too long. The white coat is the shiny symbol that signifies that we, as physicians and student physicians, are somehow important in a room. And I'm sure we've all heard of white coat hypertension, where a patient's blood pressures are falsely elevated because they're not comfortable in a doctor's office. But why does this coat convey so much importance? My own white coat ceremony feels long ago. I remember my first year, it felt like a costume that I was putting on to go to my practice of medicine, or pretend doctor class as I called it. It felt weird but exciting each time I got to put it on. It helped me get in the zone when we had a standardized patient encounter, and helped me try to figure out how this doctor thing worked with a patient, albeit it was an actor paid to make me less awkward, which was a feat. After finishing third year, that new and shiny feeling has worn off, as to be expected. And now I'm always complaining because I'm constantly washing it as I get coffee or pen in a new spot about every other day. Nonetheless, my white coat now reminds me of the time that I sat with a patient and her family after they received bad news about her prognosis. It reminds me of the time I flung it off to play Battleship with a little kid who was in the hospital for weeks and whose parents had gone back to work. It reminds me of the time I had numerous notes shoved in all of the pockets in between my snacks that I would present to our team on daily rounds about this patient who had a mysterious abdominal pain that we were struggling to find an accurate diagnosis for. And it also reminds me of the time I gingerly hung it up outside of the OR in the middle of the night as we were preparing to go back for a woman with a ruptured ectopic pregnancy. It is amazing how this article of clothing has watched me grow through medical school, from feeling like I was playing dress up to supporting patients through the numerous hours I've spent in the hospital. I think the memories I have with a white coat also speaks volumes to the purpose of it. Sure, the white color is a symbol of honor and integrity, but the white coat is more of a symbol of empathy and compassion. The memories that resonate are rarely from the one time I got a question right as I was quizzed on rounds by the attending, or the time I presented a topic to my team. Instead, they speak to the theme that not only draws most of us to become doctors, but also keeps us going: people. As Dr. Licinio mentioned, the first modern white coat ceremony happened only 26 years ago. Started in 1993 at Columbia as an opportunity to outline the responsibilities that we undertake as students of the medical profession at the start rather than the end of our formal education. These responsibilities or professional duties are outlined in the Hippocratic Oath, and they include things such as leading your lives and practicing your art in uprightness and honor. Those are some fancy words that I think boil down to articulate that as a physician, including the time you're a student, you are not a scientist alone. You are a privileged and highly educated person in society, devoted to treating each patient with respect, love, and honor. Treat each elderly person as you would your own grandma or grandpa. Embrace patience when the patient admits to being hesitant to starting the new medication or treatment that you feel is right for them. Take the time to hold a hand or lend an extra smile to the patient who's waiting in pre-op before the surgery they're nervous for. And always remember to take care of yourself and each other. Congratulations to making it to this point, Upstate Class of 2020. Bask in this special day to celebrate how far you've worked to make it this far, but don't stop there. Embrace the professional responsibility that you embark with this first white coat. And when you find yourself in times of doubt or stress, remember what this white coat means to you. Have this coat become your symbol for all of the hard work you've put in, all of the experiences you've had to bring you here, and the people that have supported you and changed your life to this point. Good luck and congratulations again. And now I would like to reintroduce Dr. Julie White, Associate Vice President for Educational Services and Dean of Student Affairs, who will read the names of the first-year medical students.
The class of 2023 will be inducted into the field of medicine and welcomed by Dean Licinio and our two guest speakers, Dr. Sarah Passos and Dr. Daryl Dykes. Will you join me now on the stage, please? So while they are going to do their thing, I am going to give you some instructions. I am going to call each name with great enthusiasm. You are going to then clap with great enthusiasm. You are going to clap with the same enthusiasm as student number 1 as student number 160. And if you don't do that, I will pause the program and remind you of this responsibility. And I want you to know I'm very serious about this. These students have worked very hard, and they deserve as much enthusiasm as we can give them. And you know what? You deserve it as well. You have put in tireless hours to help them get to this place. For that, we here at Upstate Medical University thank you. And with that comes some expectations. So, be ready to clap with vigor. Okay? Mr. Simpson, are we ready? We are. Here we go. Ready to start this? Yes. Okay. Maham Ahmed. That's it. Sarita Akula. Gabriel Alanya. Apeksha Ashok Kumar. Haley Arbotine. Ryan Baker. Roberta Barnes. Shannon Barron. Juliet Bautista Alvarez.
Simon Bezerganian.
Simon Bezergarian. Sia Bagat. Josh Brown. Brandon Bonayuto. Natalie Berlant. Audrey Butler. Melissa Butler. Connor Canizero. Hello. Danielle Cannon. Hello. Say the last name. Capelin. Jonathan Capelin.
Jack Carey.
Jack Carey. Hi. Emily Carpenter.
Joseph Catania.
Joseph Catania. Ryan Chan. Hello. Fanny Chen. Michelle Chen. Samuel Chen. Michelle Chisdak. Hi. Eunice Cho. Sarah Close. Okay, I'm gonna pause. No, you're good. Just checking in, you're doing very well. We should continue, okay? Here we go. Adam Cole. Ready? Adam Cole! Anthony Corsi? Yep. Anthony Corsi. Hi. Bethany Crowley? Bethany Crowley. Hi. Loma Dave? Yes, you got it. Loma Dave. Nadia Debick. Hello.
Hello, Mark Derbyshire?
Derbyshire?
Yeah, Derbyshire.
Mark Derbyshire. Hello.
Michael Daravinsky.
Michael Daravinsky. Christina Dolan. Oh yeah, there we go. Andrea Donofrio. Brendan Donovan. Hi. Chloe Doris. Hi.
Nilima
Nalima Dosakaya. Julie Ehrlich. Hi, how are you? Takeni Figuera. Scott Furman. Hi. Michael Flood. Hi. Catherine Forsyth. Emma Frawley. Hi. Danielle Fuller Sincock. Hi. Kelly Gow. Hi. What's the first name? Shuki Gow. Hi. Nicole Giannetti. I got that one. Okay. Sarah Gibson. Hi. Andrew Goldman. Hi. Catherine Gilbo. Hi. Henry Gamina. Nicholas Graham.
Dr. White, can you say my full name? Millage Malik Griffin III.
Millage Malik Griffin IV. Millage Malik Griffin IV. Hi. Malik? Yeah, Malik. Haberman. Nurit Haberman. Amen Hader. Jesse Hammond.
Ryan Hart.
Ryan Hart. Hi, how are you?
Tianfang Alan P. Tianfang Alan P.
Alan? No, it's not there.
You say it. Alan.
Tianfang Allen He. Mackenzie Hintz. Hi.
Feng Shao.
Fing
Feng
Shao.
Shao, yeah.
Fing Shao. Hi.
Jacqueline Inglis.
Jacqueline Inglis. Hi.
Hi.
Tanya
Janeja.
Janeja.
Yes.
Tanya Janeja. Hannah Joles.
John Kangaroo. John Kangaroo, yeah.
John Kangarloo. Hi. Anna Cantor. Maria Casmi. Kirsten Kennedy. Samuel Kennedy. Hi. Michael Kersey? Michael Kersey. Hello. Kelsey Killy.
Junior Kim.
June
Junior Kim.
June Yup Kim. Hi. Elena Kleinhens. Hello. Benjamin Kraus. Maria Lamontagne. Hi. Christopher
Lastahenos?
Lastahenos.
Yes.
Christopher Lastahenos. Hi.
Yoon Bum Lee.
Yoon Bum Lee. Hi.
Benson
Benson?
Lee.
Benson Lee. Benson Lee. Hi. Joshua Long. Hi.
Hi, Jin Jin Ma.
Jin Jin Ma. Jin Jin Ma. Hello.
Brandon
Mahajan.
Mahajan.
Mahajan. Brandon Mahajan. Hi. Mary Mahoney. Thank you. Mary Mahoney. Trisha.
Mimi.
Yes. Trisha Maney. Hi. Logan Mancuso.
Yes.
Logan Mancuso. Hi. Casey Manzanero. Casey Manzanero. Hi. Raisa Masood. Hello. Deasia McAlpine. Hi. Jada McMahon.
I lost my card.
Okay.
Michael Malachi. Yeah.
Michael Malachi. Hi. Ryan Mara Reyes. Hello. Jennifer Messina. Jennifer Messina. Hi. Taylor Middleton.
That's it,
There we
Brady.
go. Taylor Middleton. Gargi Mishra. Okay, we're going to pause. Just checking in. We're in the M's. You're going to follow my lead. Ready? Here we go. You ready for this? Oh, yeah. Okay. Megan? Megan Molnar! Bhavani Murugayson. Hi, how are you?
Richard Masakio.
Masakio?
Masakio.
Masakio. Richard Masakio. Hi. Molly O'Brien, thank you very much. Molly O'Brien. Hi. Sarah O. Hi. Winston Oliver. Winston Oliver. Hi. Danielle Olenoff. Ah. Danielle Olenoff. Hello, sir. Danielle
Onet.
Onett. Daniel?
Daniel.
Daniel Onett. Hi. Emma Oscar? Yep. Oscar or Oscar? Oscar. Emma Oscar. Hi.
Hi, Eileen Padilla.
Eileen Perdier. Hi.
John Poliakra.
John Poliakra. Hello. Natasha Pandit. Hi. Avery Pelnat. Hello. Colette Piasecki Masters. Hi. Jessica Pinsker. Hello.
Hi, Andrew Pivovar.
Pivovar.
Pivovar, yeah.
Andrew Pivovar. Hello.
How's it going?
Good. Tyler
Pokari.
Pocari.
Okay, it's perfect.
Tyler Pocari. Hello. Michael Pollock. Hi. Taylor Pong. Hi. Rachel Putnam. Hello.
Shruti Ramachandra. Shruti Ramachandra.
Shruti Ramachandra. Lakshikar Ravindran. Oh, please be easy. Are you easy?
Deirdre Regan.
Yes. Deirdre Regan. Hi.
Alicia Reyes.
Alicia Reyes.
Easy one for you.
Thank you. Sarah Roberts. Hi. Timothy Rooney. Hi.
Justin Rose.
Hey. Justin Rose. Hi.
Tanner Rosa.
Tanner Roser. Hi. Hi. Mallory Rowley. Mallory Rowley. Russo. Gregory Russo. Okay. Prasenjit Saha. Pretty good. Gamal St. Surin.
Gamael.
Gamael St. Surin. Gamael St. Surin. Hi. Alexis Saunders. Okay. Alexis Saunders. Ankita Saxena. Juliana Schultzky. Hello. Omar Say. Hello.
Kavi Shankar.
Kavi Shankar.
Kavi Shankar.
Kavi Shankar.
I forgot my card with it. Robert Shee.
Just tell me.
Robert Shee.
He's handing me an iPhone. Robert Shee. Claire Sheen. Hello. Ji-Sung Shin. Hello. Mita Shrivastava. Catherine Skolnick. Hi.
Time with this one is hard.
Okay. Kevin Smith. Arya Soltani.
Aditya Somasundar.
Soma Sundram.
Yeah, Somasundar.
Aditya Soma Sundram. Yep. Aditya Soma Sundram. Ahmed Schwade. Ahmed Schwade. Hello. Emily Speck. Emily Speck. Catherine Spivak. Amanda Stallone. Angelina Stewart. Hi.
Hello.
Good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Stephen Stone. Hi.
Hey, Joe Sullivan.
Just,
Yeah.
Joe Sullivan. Hi. Hannah Swerden? Yeah. Hannah Swerden. Hi. Melanie Thatcher Otero? Melanie Thatcher Otero. Hello.
Priyanka Talagada-Devi.
Ooh, do you want to say it?
It's okay. It looks exact. It's pronounced exactly the way it's spelled.
Okay, so say it again.
Talagada-Devi.
Priyanka Talagada.
Gada-Devi. Talagada-Devi. Yeah. Talagada-Devi. Talagada-Devi.
Priyanka Talagala Devi. Okay, Dylan Taylor. Hi.
Tina Thomas.
Tina Thomas. Tina Thomas. Hi. Good. Tristan Thompson. Tristan Thompson.
Deval Tolia.
I'm sorry.
Deval Tolia.
Deval Tolia. Deval Tolia. Sophia Turbide. Hi. Karen Valeras.
Virat Yosin.
Virat Yosin. Taven Virat Yosin. Hi. Thank you. Alice Wang. Hi. Barnes Werner. Hi. Connor Weist. Hi. Samantha Williams. Sarah Woods. Lauren Woolheiser. Hi.
Hi.
John
Yep, Jablonski.
Yablonsky. John Yablonsky. Hannah Yu. Xiaoping Wen. Muiz Zaman. Yep. Give it up. Class of 2023. Let's do it again. College of Medicine Class 2023. They were all so very kind to me as they were handing me their cards. My favorite is when someone would say, John Smith. Okay, Dr. Licinio will now administer the oath to the class of 2023.
Now I'd like to ask the students to please rise and recite with me, so don't wait for me to finish, just let's do this together. As a physician in training, I will strengthen myself with the knowledge and compassion to care for them. I will acknowledge my limits, seeking help when needed. I will be gracious to my teachers and colleagues. At all times, I'll never see in the patient anything but a fellow creature in need. This oath I take freely upon my honor. So please be seated. So I'd like to introduce now the first of our two speakers, Dr. Sarah Patterson, Assistant Researcher, Complement Biology, New York Blood Center, who has been invited to present the Welcome to the Profession of Medicine address to the entering class. Her full bio is in your program. Dr. Patterson.
So I'm honored to be part of today's celebration and welcome, very proud actually, because all of you deep work very nicely, just looking into our eyes. So this is very important thing as a physician, believe me. And so you likely believe that you are the beginning of this journey. But in reality, you have already accomplished much as evidence is being accepted as part of this distinguished class. However, there are still many miles and many challenges to experience and enjoy or survive on your journey as a physician. For example, one of the first challenges for you is to survive in the next minutes of listen to me trying to inspire you all. So I'm an immunologist, and as immunologist, you hear a little bit recently, 2018, Dr. James Allison was awarded with the immunotherapy for cancer. He is an immunologist. And in immunology, we have, of course, so many things that we have to study to help patients. That's the major thing, and for you guys as well. So a part of this, in research, we have all the time to ask questions. So that's my point, my main point for you today, and now for the next couple minutes. So what I want to tell you as a device, actually, and a suggestion, believe me, it's important. So the doctor needs to write a clinical history of the patients, and will need to ask several questions. Books generally divide the process of collecting patients' history, divided in patient identification, main complementary and duration of the disease, current disease history, review of the other organ systems, so many things. Too complicated? No, not at all, believe me. But you guys don't need to know only the name of the patient, what's the type of pain, and other things that you can think about the diagnosis. You have to look inside of the eyes of the patient and try to figure it out what deep is there. Not only what type of pain, why the patient is there. It's more things apart from this. And sometimes the tests, the exams, MRI, X-rays will not answer to you, believe me. So you need to collect as much information as possible to create a process of collecting the patient's clinical history. At the first, it's very mechanical, believe me. But I'm praying that in the end, this will be your truly story inside of research and medical history. Usually, get an idea of what is going on, actually, with the answers. But you risk missing out on potentially valuable information if only ask questions that requires a yes or no as an answer. For example, asking an elderly man if he's feeling better about a disease or about a very, very specific symptom will not help you, because this can cause you to miss a description of an odd feeling in his arm or in his belly or in something different. Instead, considering something that will force the patient to describe what's going on, sometimes the best questions are not questions at all. It can be helpful use statements that accomplish a similar objective, such as, tell me what you're feeling. It's the type of statement that will never give you an answer yes or no. This will help you a lot. And so, ask open-ending questions. One thing at a time, please, not 10 questions together. Listen the answers. Pay attention very carefully to the answers of your patient. Consider how you look, the patient, the pain, everything. This is important as well. I have thought from time to time about what advice I will give myself if I could go back in time to various points of my education and career. I did not come from a medical family. I really had no idea as what to expect from school or anything that follow. I just knew somehow that care is provided based on science and seemed to have a deep desire to help other people. So I'm working in different types of tests as immunologist, so different types of vaccines, different types of drugs, and this makes me ask questions every single day. So my suggestion for you guys is remember every day that your patient is the love of someone else. And you have to take care of this patient as much as you can. So to inspire you to be a doctor, a better one, not the normal one, I will tell you, have a touch of a researcher in your mind, because this will give you every single time in your memory that you have to ask questions. And those questions doesn't have to come with a yes or a no as an answer, but will bring you a lot of help and information about your patients. Enjoy what you guys have been chosen for now. Please, because science, medicine, it's not only what I have to do every day. I'm losing my days just working and working and working, but do it for pleasure. This will give you guys, believe me, a lot of fun in the end. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank Dr. Passes, and now I'd like to introduce Dr. Daryl Dykes, who is an assistant professor of orthopedic surgery and a graduate of our MD PhD class of 1995, and he's been invited to present the second Welcome to the Profession of Medicine to address this entering class. And a full bio of Dr. Dykes is in your program.
Thank you, Dean Licinio. If I stumble here, you have to excuse me because something occurred that I didn't anticipate. Dr. Licinio mentioned earlier that I was born in Syracuse, and then we started talking about the class of 2023, and that is exactly X number of decades after I was born. And I won't say how many X's, but a lot of them. So it's with great humility that I accepted the invitation to be the speaker at today's white coat ceremony. It's a momentous day for all of you as students and for your family and friends as you've prepared so long on this journey. When I was out shopping yesterday, as a matter of fact, I saw a bunch of little people running around with their parents doing school shopping. And they're all running around, and they had lists in their hands, and they're checking off on the list all the things that they had to prepare for. Lunchbox, check. 3,250 color box of crayons, check. When I saw this, it kind of reminded me of the tremendous journey that these young people and their families were embarking upon. And it was actually fascinating to me to see these adorable little 5-year-olds and recognize that one day they were going to be doctors and lawyers and policemen and engineers and scientists. How many of you all remember school shopping for kindergarten for these people? Right? I was also out shopping recently, and I ran into a young man and his parents school shopping. And I knew that it was medical school shopping because he was carrying a backpack, and on his backpack he had a lanyard attached, and it was an Upstate medical university ID, and there's the big white tab across the bottom that said medical student. So I realized that he was medical school shopping. That happened to be in the Apple store. And I realized a couple of things. Number one, I probably spend too much time shopping. Second, our kids' school shopping just gets more expensive with time. This time it was iPad check, MacBook check, that kind of thing. And third, I realized that this educational process is really a series of new beginnings, each one with a whole new world of challenges and opportunities. So as I consider what I would say to you today, several thoughts came to mind. First, I realized that I can probably authoritatively tell you that medicine is the world's greatest job. And I can tell you that because if you've read my bio, I've actually tried all of the other ones. What they didn't tell you, and what's not in the bio, is I also have a mini MBA in healthcare management. I served in the U.S. Marine Corps. I was an insurance salesman, and I was a manager of a high-end women's shoe store. Second, as I reflected on the graduation and white coat ceremonies that I have been to in my own lifetime, many of them, including many of my own, they all had keynote speakers. And what I realized, that even if my life depended on it, I could not remember a single word that any of them said, or even who they were. So this is kind of a public speaker's jackpot. I have an opportunity to tell you something interesting, important, inspirational, or actually that might even help you. But if I fail to give you anything of value today, there's no chance that you will remember even who I am 48 hours from now. So in the remainder of my time, I'm going to try to be impactful. And to do that, I'm going to do two things. Number one, I'm going to be brief. Number two, unlike the mandatory, and I emphasize mandatory, lecture that I'm going to give you all in a couple of weeks, I'm going to tell you today when I need for you to stop texting, stop Snapchatting, no more selfies, put your phones away, and pay attention, because in that lecture, everything I tell you is going to be fair game for a question or an exam. Here, I'll let you know when I really want you to pay attention. All right, so thinking about the whole kindergarten versus starting medical school thing, they're vastly different. And I want to share with you a little bit about what's so special about the avocation of medicine, and actually this whole concept of the white coat ceremony. And as I thought about this, one of the things I realized is that doctors, or I discovered, I actually didn't realize it, I discovered that doctors haven't always worn white coats. In fact, white medical coats, as we know them, have only been around for about 100 years. Before the scientific breakthroughs that happened around the turn of the 19th century, doctors actually wore black. And they wore black as a symbol of the formality and the reverence and solemnity of the profession of medicine, and also because the black garments actually hid some of the stains and so forth that were characteristic of the kind of work that we do. White coats were actually worn only by scientists in the laboratory. The image of doctors wearing black is immortalized in several really famous pieces of art, one of the most notable of which is Thomas Eakins' 1875 masterpiece that's called The Gross Table. And in that painting, it shows Dr. Samuel Gross and his medical assistants performing surgery in suits, dressed in street clothes, at the Jefferson Medical College in Philadelphia. Interestingly, in 1889, so just 14 years later, Eakins completed another masterpiece entitled The Andrews Clinic. And in that painting, Dr. Hayes Andrews from the University of Pennsylvania is portrayed in a white smock. His assistants are also wearing white, and the patient is draped in white sheets. There's also a photograph that's available from 1889 from the Massachusetts General Hospital that shows surgeons in short-sleeve white coats over their street clothes. So what happened over that 14-year interval? One key development was the work of Sir Joseph Lister. And Lister was a British surgeon and scientist who, in 1861, observed that 45 to 50%, half, of his amputation patients actually died from sepsis. It was in 1865 that Lister learned of Louis Pasteur's theory that microorganisms actually cause sepsis. It's bacteria infections. And he incorporated the use of phenol to sterilize his surgical equipment and reduce that 50% mortality rate to about 15%. So it was a tremendous advance at that time. And then it was that coupled with Sir William Osler's 1892 textbook of medicine and a discovery by Walter Reed that the spread of malaria happened through mosquitoes, that the value of cleanliness in antisepsis became firmly fixed in medicine. So it was around this time that the whiteness and pureness of medicine also became reflected in the garb that we wear. Probably the greatest development of medical science of the entire 20th century was the advent of antibiotics towards the end of World War II, the completion of Lister's dream that bacteria could be successfully overcome. Throughout the 20th century, the white coat sort of continued as the symbol of medical authority and respect, as advance upon advance firmly established the patient-doctor relationship as a beneficial relationship. Many patients now view this white coat as a cloak of compassion, as a symbol of the caring and hope they expect to receive from their physicians. And you've heard about this from our previous speakers. So it's our job as medical school educators to give you the scientific and clinical tools that you need to be successful and need to be good doctors. But just as importantly, the white coat symbolizes the other critical parts of a student's medical education. It's a standard of professionalism and caring. So the white coat ceremony, as we heard, originated in 1993 at Columbia University, and it welcomes those embarking upon their career in medicine to the community of physicians by giving them this powerful symbol of compassion and honor. It also gives them a standard against which they must measure their every act of care to the patients who trust them. However, the image of the white coat has not been all positive. Many of you have heard of white coat syndrome. That's the term that's used to explain the hypertension or the high blood pressure that patients get sometimes when they see a doctor in a white coat. In some cases, the white coat has become so intimidating that pediatricians and psychiatrists, for instance, don't use them typically in their practices. There have also been concerns that despite the clean and sterile appearance of the white coat, these coats might be heavily contaminated with bacteria that we actually transmit from room to room as we see patients. And there's actually been research into patients' preferences about the white coat, and I'll share just a couple studies with you. There was a 2013 study published in the Osner Journal that showed that patients actually prefer their doctors wear white coats and believe that white coats contribute to greater comfort and confidence in physicians, even when they were told or preempted with this data that the white coats might carry infection from room to room. There's also a study that shows that improving patient experiences and higher patient satisfaction can improve health outcomes. Patients actually get better when they have better experiences. And so to test the preferences on how physician attire might impact patient satisfaction and therefore outcomes, researchers performed a cross-sectional observational study of 10 academic medical centers in the US. This is the largest study of its date to kind. And they used a questionnaire developed by a multidisciplinary team of psychometricians, research scientists, choice architects, survey experts, bioethicists. And through this study, they actually studied how patients' attire, or how physicians' attire, affected patients' approachability and knowledge and so forth. The study compared the following outfits: casual clothes only, casual clothes under a white coat, medical scrubs only, medical scrubs under a white coat, formal business attire, and formal attire under a white coat, and then finally just a business suit. The data revealed that most patients felt it was important that their doctors wore a lab coat in an office setting, and especially in a hospital setting. And with the exception of emergency and surgery setting, formal attire under a white coat was the option ranked highest by patients across all domains, including how knowledgeable, trustworthy, caring, approachable the physician appeared to be, as well as how comfortable the physician made the patient feel. So the study serves to emphasize how patient preferences and professional attire can play a valuable role in the relationship and how it might improve outcomes. So, as I promised, here's the part where I want you to wake up and pay attention. We talked about the crisis of sepsis facing medicine at the turn of the 20th century and how the white coat evolved as a symbol of cleanliness and forms the cornerstone of modern medicine. I submit to you that 21st century medicine also faces a number of crises. We've largely defeated the crisis of antiseptic surgery. We've essentially eliminated diseases like polio and smallpox that used to plague entire populations. We've predictably given patients a new lease on life through organ transplantation. We've made unimaginable progress in the treatment of heart disease and arthritis and trauma and diabetes and all of these things. We're using robots in surgery. However, the miracles of 20th century medicine is not equitably available to all people. In the United States, we spend about 20% of every dollar on health care. That's far more than any other industrialized nation, yet we rank near the bottom of the list of industrialized nations in longevity and health-related quality of life. How does that happen? My own research has identified 13 groups of Americans who receive worse health care and suffer worse health outcomes based solely on their membership in a particular group. It might surprise you that most of us in this room are a member of one or more of these groups. The groups are racial and ethnic minorities, women, the elderly, LGBT individuals, prisoners, the poor, immigrants, and physically and mentally disabled people. That's not the full list. So these health inequities not only affect individuals or specific populations, but they also impact the overall health status and health care costs facing our nation. Disparities in health care cost this nation $6 billion a year. It's not only a moral crisis, it's an economic crisis. So don't misunderstand me. Cancer, heart disease, trauma, mental illness, infection, obesity, all of these things still claim way too many lives, and we've got a lot of work to do to solve those challenges. But like we tackled sepsis 100 years ago, I believe that we can prevail over those conditions as well. However, I submit to you that the most significant crisis facing 21st century medicine is our inability to deliver the benefits of 20th century medicine to all people equitably. At the very least, all of you will don these white coats today, and you should don them as true cloaks of compassion and symbols of the caring and hope that we owe to all of our patients, irrespective of their race, national origin, age, gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, or any other factor other than our common humanity. For most of you, this will involve your own individual efforts in your practices. Others of you might pursue research or scholarly activities on health disparities. And a few of you will be the Pasteurs and Listers and Grosses and Agnews and Ostlers and Reeds of the 21st century who will uproot health disparities and solve this crisis that we have. So now here's the part that is on the exam. In a speech to the Medical Committee for Human Rights in 1966, Dr. Martin Luther King said, "Of all the forms of inequity, injustice in healthcare is the most shocking and inhumane." And regrettably, over 50 years later, injustice in health remains a challenge in our nation and around the world. So now as you sit there as newly admitted medical students, I'd like for you to consider another passage by Dr. King. And it says, "No matter where you stand, no matter how much popularity you have, no matter how much education you have, no matter how much money you have it because somebody in this universe helped you get it. And when you see that, you can't be arrogant, you can't be supercilious. You discover that you have your position because of the events of history and because of individuals in the background making it possible for you to stand there. So in closing, as you embark upon your medical careers, I'd like to ask you all to do something that your parents taught you not to do when you're going to kindergarten. And that's pick a fight. Every time you put on that white coat, remember that you're able to put it on because of the events of history and because of individuals in the background who made it possible for you to be there. Every time you put on your white coat, remember it's not only your obligation to master the facts of medicine and surgery and science, but it's your obligation to build upon the foundation of the giants who preceded you and paved the way, and you have to pave the way for people who follow you. Every time you put on your white coat, think of it as battle gear. It's your solemn duty to fight for the well-being of your patients and the well-being of our noble profession. Whether that means your individual efforts in your own clinics or large-scale efforts in the halls of the U.S. Congress, like I chose to tackle, pick a fight and fight it with all your might, because the future of medicine is depending on you. With that, on behalf of the State University of New York, Upstate Medical University, Dean Licinio, the faculty, the Alumni Association, and the Upstate student body that you're joining, I wish to congratulate you and your families and your friends on this momentous accomplishment. Can we take one moment to acknowledge the friends and family members in the audience who have worked so hard? And finally, it's my honor and privilege to call you colleagues, to challenge you to fight for the future of medicine, and to welcome you to this wonderful application. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Dr. Dykes for a wonderful presentation and notes. And I'd like to close this ceremony. I'd like to say a few words before we finish, which one item that I think is very important and then should be overlooked is that we talk a lot about you joining the healing profession and becoming healers and healing others, etc. But you will not heal others effectively if you are yourself crumbling inside. And we tend not to talk too much about the challenges and issues of mental illness, but since I'm a psychiatrist and my specialty is depression, so maybe I should say a few words about that. So I really would like to urge you to take care of yourselves. The rate of mental illness in people of your generation in a class just like this is very high. And there is a question as to why that is that, and I think it's a multiple factors. So many people who would not otherwise have even finished high school or gone successfully through college now go through college and high school because of successful mental health treatments. So they already, then they, graduate, and many of them are very talented, so they end up in the class. So they already have a mental health problem that they've been dealing with to begin with. And in the old days, they probably wouldn't even have made it to medical school. Then the rates of mental illness are happening earlier and earlier, even whether they are, there is a question as to whether they are increasing, and that's very controversial topic in my field. But regardless of whether they are increasing or not, they are happening earlier. So typically, like, in the 1950s, people would become depressed like in their 40s, and now they become depressed in their teens. So it's the same person, but it's not a higher rate, but it's just coming earlier. So, and there is also the question as to whether there is indeed increased rates of anxiety and depression. So some people say, I don't, because I work with depression, so I talk to a lot of people and they ask what I do. They say, well, I don't understand what depression is. I never felt depressed in my life. So I've said it a few times, but most times I don't say it, I just think it. But I think, you should really, really see a psychiatrist. There's something very wrong with you. So I think it's part of the human experience for you to feel depression and anxiety, and you're dealing with very, stressful situations. It would be really abnormal if you didn't. And so it's expected. But you should feel depressed or anxious for a day or for 2 days or for 3 days, but then when does it become a clinical illness? So technically it's when it's more than 15 days in a row, or more days than not, predominantly nearly every day for at least 2 weeks. So at least you know now. So when to get help. And we are very eager and willing to help you. We have a whole program in student affairs. I'm myself a psychiatrist. You can talk to any one of us. We'll guide you to the right place. But you have to really accept the fact and understanding that you will not be helping yourself and helping others at all if you're really crumbling inside. And it's nothing to feel guilty about or feel ashamed of and feel like, that you are in a tough spot. And it's typically in medical school classes, it's a quarter to a third of the class has mental health challenges, can go to 50%. And a very well-known school recently in the West Coast did a survey of students, and 75% were on psychiatric medication. So it is really epidemic, it's very high, and make sure that you are well so that you can make others well. So moving to a happier topic, to finish on a happier note. Every now and then, it doesn't happen very often, it's not like, every 10 years, but maybe every year, every 6 months, every other year, I hear something that really stops me in my tracks. And this quote that I heard this year was actually the title of a book that I saw, and then I saw the quote, who it was from, and it touched me in multiple different ways, so I'd like to share it with you. So it's a quote that it says, not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts. So you will be dealing a lot with quantitative issues and numbers and trying to understand the person in terms of their numbers and their lab tests, etc. So just always remember, not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. And that applies to your education, to your personal lives, to a lot of things. And the other reason that this quote really got to me, one was the meaning of the actual quote, and the other one is that it was the person who wrote the book about it. I mean, the book's about management, it's not about the quote itself, but they use that as the point that when you manage things, you have to look at quantitative issues, but also at relationships and work environment and all of that. So, and it applies to medical schools too. So, the quote's attributed to Albert Einstein. And as a researcher, I always check everything, and as Dr. Pastor said, you know, we should always ask questions. So there is in medicine something that I call the folklore of medicine. A lot of what will be taught to you is not factually true, and it's been just passed from one person to another, and there is no scientific basis. So I've developed this habit of checking everything from even before there was an internet, which was you know, difficult, but now it's so easy. I'm surprised that not everybody does that. So when you check the quote, one person said that 30 years before this person wrote this, Albert Einstein supposed to have said this in a classroom, and she heard from someone who was in the class. But that's very vague. Meanwhile, in the 1950s, someone had written that already in this issue of, like, you know, not everything that can be quantified is important. So it was in an economics book in the 50s, and it was in someone's sermon, like, you know, in the 1800s. And they have the whole series of quotations and how the quote evolved, and there is a whole history to it and has nothing to do with Albert Einstein. So I would, so the second kind of lesson from that quote is that don't believe at face value what anybody tells you. Go and verify for yourself and check and recheck, and because an instructor or a professor or the dean of the school said something doesn't mean that it's accurate or that it's true or that it's going to be what's gonna, you know, hold water going forward. So you have a lot of checking that you need to do yourselves, and that will be part of your continuous education throughout your whole entire professional lives. So please remember these two concepts, you know, one, the quote itself, and the other one, the history around the source. But when you Google it, you see this, you know, people make these very beautiful slides, and there are these pictures of Einstein with the hair all white and the, you know, the bubble and the quote there. He never said it, and there's a whole history of someone else who did it. So check things for yourself. Develop that habit early on. Everything that you're told, go and check and read the source. Things that you see in books are quotations from papers. Sometimes they are misattributed or misrepresented, like, you know, distorted in a way. So the meaning of what's in the book is not what was in the original article. So try to go to the sources, check the references, and learn for yourselves. And that's something that you really have to have a very active role in your own learning process. So I'd like to end here by thanking once again the families and all of you in the audience who helped this great class to be here today. And also I'd like to thank the whole staff of Student Affairs, but particularly Chuck Simpson. Where's Chuck? Yeah, yes. And he put this whole thing together with his team, and we're very grateful to him. So thank you.
We have a reception outside. There is also a photographer if you'd like to get some pictures taken. But thank you very much for coming. Class, congratulations. Everyone enjoy.